If your feet are burning right now, if you've been lying awake at night because of that fire in your feet that won't stop, I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share is something I wish I could tell every single one of my patients over 60 before the damage goes any further. I've been working with seniors for decades, and there's one problem I see over and over again that breaks my heart. Not because it can't be addressed, but because so many people are being told the wrong thing about it. They're being given the wrong treatment. And in many cases, that treatment is actually making things worse. The burning in your feet at night, the tingling, the numbness that creeps up from your toes, the feeling like your feet are wrapped in something that doesn't belong to you. If you're experiencing any of that, and if you're over 60, this video is for you, and I need you to understand something right now before we go any further. This is not normal aging. I don't care what anyone has told you. This is your body sending you a signal, and that signal deserves a real answer. Here's what most people in your situation have already been through. They went to their doctor, they described exactly what they're feeling, and they walked out of that office with one of two things: either a prescription for gabapentin or Lyrica, or those three words that are among the most damaging words a doctor can say: it's your age. I've seen patients cry in my office after hearing that, because they knew something was wrong. They could feel it, and being dismissed like that, it doesn't just hurt. It delays the real help that's actually available. And in the meantime, the damage continues. But here's what makes this even more serious, and I'll get to this in just a moment. The real cause of what you're feeling has almost nothing to do with what your doctor focused on. And understanding that cause is the difference between managing symptoms forever and actually giving your body what it needs to begin recovering. Let me describe something for you, and I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar. It's 2 in the morning. You wake up, not because of noise, not because of a bad dream, because your feet feel like they're on fire. Or maybe it's more like 1,000 small needles pressing in from every direction at once. You get up, you walk to the bathroom, and you notice, again, that the floor feels strange under your feet. Not quite right, like you're walking on something padded or on gravel, or like you can't quite trust the ground beneath you. You hold the wall on the way back to bed, you lie down, and you stare at the ceiling wondering when this became your life. If that's familiar, if you recognize yourself in any part of that, I want you to know something. That experience is shared by tens of millions of people in this country. Approximately 20 million Americans have peripheral neuropathy, and the majority of them are over 60. You are not alone in this, and more importantly, you are not powerless. Now let me tell you what's actually happening in your body, because understanding this is everything. Your peripheral nerves, the ones that run from your spine all the way down to your toes, think of them like electrical cables, long complex cables that carry signals back and forth between your brain and your body. Now every good electrical cable has a protective coating around it. Rubber, insulation. Without it, the electrical signal leaks, it distorts, it misfires. Your nerves have that same protective coating. It's called myelin. And when that coating begins to deteriorate, the signals your nerves are supposed to carry get scrambled. That scrambling is what you feel as burning, as tingling, as numbness, as those sudden electric shocks that come out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Your nerves aren't sending the wrong signals because something is fundamentally broken. They're sending distorted signals because their protective coating has been damaged. And here is the critical question that most doctors never stop to ask. Why is the myelin deteriorating? What is causing that protective coating to break down? Because without answering that question, every treatment you receive is just noise management. You're turning down the volume on an alarm without ever finding out what's burning. In my years working with patients over 60, I've seen this pattern over and over, and the answer, in the majority of cases, comes down to something the medical system almost never tests for, something that costs almost nothing to address, and something that your doctor, in a rushed 10-minute appointment, almost certainly never mentioned. Let me give you 3 numbers, because numbers matter. Up to 40% of adults over the age of 60 are significantly deficient in vitamin B12. Read that again. 40%. And here's what B12 has to do with your feet burning at night. Vitamin B12, specifically the form called methylcobalamin, is the single most essential nutrient for the production and maintenance of myelin, that protective coating I just described. Without adequate B12, that coating cannot maintain itself. It thins, it breaks down, and your nerves begin to misfire. Now here's where it gets even more important. After 60, the stomach's ability to absorb B12 drops significantly. This isn't a moral failure, it's physiology. Your body simply doesn't extract B12 from food the way it once did. did. And if you're taking metformin, which millions of diabetic seniors take every single day, that medication actively blocks B12 absorption at the gut level. Studies have shown that long-term metformin use reduces B12 levels in up to 30% of users. So if you're diabetic, taking metformin and experiencing nerve symptoms, there's a very direct, very researched connection between those three things, and it's something your prescribing physician may never have connected for you. But here's what makes this even more serious. And I said I'd come back to this. Most people who do take B12 supplements are taking the wrong form. The standard cyanocobalamin found in almost every cheap supplement on the market, it's a synthetic form that the body must convert before it can use. And after 60, that conversion process is significantly impaired. So you could be taking B12 every single day and still be functionally deficient at the nerve tissue level. The research on this is clear, but it rarely reaches the people who need it most. If this is the first time you're hearing any of this, I suspect it is. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. I release critical health information for people over 60 every week. Information your doctor may not have time to share in a routine appointment. Hit the subscribe button below, it costs nothing, and it could be one of the most important health decisions you make today. Now I want to tell you about a patient of mine. I'll call him Robert, 67 years old, retired teacher. Came to me after 3 years of worsening nerve pain in both feet. He'd been prescribed gabapentin by his primary care doctor. He told me, and these were his exact words, "I'd rather have the pain back than feel the way this medication makes me feel. Foggy, off balance, unable to think clearly, and the pain wasn't even gone. It was muffled, masked, still there underneath." Robert had type 2 diabetes and had been on metformin for 11 years. Nobody had ever checked his B12 level in over a decade. When we finally checked, his levels were critically low, not borderline. Critically low. We addressed the deficiency using the right form. We added specific nutritional support for the other mechanisms I'll describe in a moment. And over the following months, Robert described something that I think captures what so many people in his situation are longing for. He said, "I can feel the floor again when I walk." That might sound like a small thing. It isn't. When you've lost sensation in your feet, when every step feels uncertain, when you're gripping walls and furniture and living in fear of falling, being able to feel the floor again is everything. It's independence. It's confidence. It's being able to walk to the kitchen without waking your spouse at 3 in the morning because you're afraid of what happens if you fall. And this is where I need to be honest with you about something. Because the nerve pain that wakes you at night, it isn't just a physical problem. I've watched patients withdraw from their lives because of it. Stop going to family dinners because they're afraid of navigating an unfamiliar floor. Stop playing with their grandchildren on the ground because they can't trust their legs to get back up. Stop gardening, stop dancing, stop doing the things that made them feel like themselves. And I've watched that withdrawal become a kind of grief, a quiet, private grief over the life they feel slipping away from them. If any of that resonates, I want you to hear this. That is not inevitable. That is not just what getting older looks like. That is a specific, addressable problem that has been enormously underserved by conventional medicine. Put together a short presentation that goes much deeper into everything I've covered today. It includes specific approaches that I've seen work for patients in exactly this situation. The link is in the description below. Watch it when you have a quiet moment. I think it's going to answer a lot of questions you didn't even know you had. Now let me tell you about the other pieces of this. Because B12 deficiency, while central, is rarely the only factor. The research increasingly suggests that peripheral nerve recovery requires a combination of nutritional support working together, not just one nutrient in isolation. Alpha-lipoic acid is one of the most researched natural compounds for peripheral nerve support. It's a powerful antioxidant that works specifically inside nerve cells, neutralizing the oxidative damage that accumulates over decades, and that standard antioxidants simply cannot reach. What makes it particularly important is that it crosses directly into nerve mitochondria, and it's one of the few compounds that works in both fat-soluble and water-soluble environments inside the body. Clinical evidence points to its role in reducing the oxidative stress that is directly associated with nerve damage. Acetyl L-carnitine is an amino acid compound that supports energy production inside nerve cells, giving damaged nerves the fuel they need to begin the repair process. It's been studied extensively in clinical settings for nerve health support. And what the data shows is that nerve cells require enormous amounts of cellular energy to maintain themselves and to begin recovering. Without that energy substrate, recovery stalls. Vitamin D, What researchers are now discovering is that vitamin D plays a direct role in nerve health, not just bone health, as most people assume. And the majority of people over 60 are significantly deficient, especially during winter months. Emerging research links vitamin D deficiency to increased nerve sensitivity and the kind of pain amplification that makes symptoms feel worse at night. Magnesium. This is one that I find almost universally low in patients over 60 with nerve symptoms. Magnesium is involved in over 300 biological processes, including the regulation of nerve signal transmission. When magnesium is low, nerve cells become hyperexcitable. They fire too easily, too intensely. That's what you're feeling when the burning flares for no apparent reason. A well-established role in neuromuscular function, and almost nobody is getting enough. And finally, benfotiamine, the fat-soluble form of vitamin B1. Most people have never heard of it, but it's been studied in European clinical settings for decades. It penetrates nerve tissue far more effectively than standard thiamine, and it plays a specific protective role for nerves that are being damaged by elevated glucose, which matters not just for diabetics, but for the enormous number of people who have prediabetes and don't know it. Now, I need to say something that I say to every patient who asks me why their doctor never mentioned any of this. And I want to be clear, I'm not interested in conspiracy theories. I'm interested in facts. The fact is that conventional medicine is structured around treatments that are patentable and reimbursable. A specific form of methylcobalamin cannot be patented. Alpha-lipoic acid cannot be patented. There is no financial infrastructure to study, promote, and distribute this information the way there is for pharmaceutical interventions. That's not a conspiracy. That's a system problem. And the result is that millions of people over 60 are suffering unnecessarily. Not because solutions don't exist, but because those solutions aren't profitable enough to promote. Your doctors are often good people working within a broken system. They have 10 minutes with you. They have a prescription pad and a treatment protocol designed by institutions with significant financial interests. They do not have time to research the specific bioavailable form of B12 that actually crosses into nerve tissue. That research falls on people like me and on people like you, who are willing to look beyond what they've been told and ask better questions. You are not powerless here. Your peripheral nervous system has a remarkable capacity to begin responding when given the specific nutritional support it has been lacking. The research on this is not fringe. It is published, it is real, and it is sitting largely unread in journals that most practicing physicians don't have time to review. What I've seen in clinical practice is that many patients describe a gradual reduction in the burning sensation over time, especially at night, that the tingling begins to normalize, that the sense of balance and confidence when walking is often one of the first things to improve. Many people describe it as feeling their feet again after years of numbness. And what I've seen that matters most is patients reclaiming their lives, sleeping through the night, walking without fear, being present with their families without the shadow of pain following them everywhere. And if you're still reaching for whatever has been giving you temporary relief at night, whatever trick you've tried to get through the burning until morning, I want you to remember what I shared today, because now you understand what's actually happening at the nerve level and what's actually possible when you give your body the specific support it needs. If today's video opened your eyes to something important, share it with someone you care about, because there are millions of people over 60 dealing with this silently, and they don't have to. The short presentation in the description goes even deeper. I highly recommend watching it when you have a quiet moment. Subscribe for more critical health information every week, and leave a comment below. What was the most surprising thing you learned today? I read every single one.